How's it going, peeps? Welcome back to Viva La Coin. I am Joe. I will be your host for today's episode, and holy fuck, do we have a lot to talk about. Everything from Cardano and their blockchain finally taking off and starting to reach that $2 mark that everyone was looking for, to what just happened with all the meme coins and everything collapsing, even though I was getting hot insider tips about Shib and Doge. And finally, I'm going to touch on some FUD that is out there right now and a lot of market manipulation created by who many people thought was an ally to cryptocurrency and still may be in his own right, but Elon Musk and his tweets and how they've affected the market and what's some of the reality behind Bitcoin's environmental impact and some of the energy expenditure. Now, if you have any contrarian opinions, any questions, any comments, or you just want to say hi and help me out with the algorithm, leave a comment down below. Like this video, share it with anyone. There's a lot of new people coming into crypto right now, and I have people that have known I've put this channel up, and I was even talking about it before, that didn't really care up until this past weekend, until SNL aired with Elon Musk, and they found out, holy shit, people that invested $1,000 in Dogecoin in January of 2021 would have like 120 grand right now. Yeah, that's pretty much all of cryptocurrency. Now, you could call it a bubble and say whatever you want and compare it to the dot-coms or the Enrons of the world. However, this is not the first cycle. We understand that there are waves and ebbs and flows to this based on the stock-to-flow model and all the historical precedents that we have. So no one is sitting here like, oh, it's all going to explode and it's all, fake and shit. We understand that it is going to correct, and we know that. So telling me every single day that, oh, it's eventually going to go down, well, thank you for telling me nothing. And then on top of that, every single person that has held onto Bitcoin and some of these larger altcoins over the course of 4 years or more in between those cycles, every single one of them is currently in profit. So let's go ahead and dive into the stories today. My computer was loading a little bit slow, so bear with me if I gotta reload any pages. And I've been playing around with the volume on the microphone just so I'm not blowing out people's eardrums, or I can be loud enough so people can hear me. I'm trying to find a happy medium. So if you need me to change anything, let me know. Now, before I go into Cardano, real quick on their price action, I did want to mention, I warned everyone about Shiba Inu, which is a bastardized version of Dogecoin, which is a meme coin based off of real use case cryptocurrency. And everyone was like, oh, it's going to be the next Doge. And I said, no, it's not. Because Dogecoin hit a market cap of $70 billion. And when Doge started dropping, all that money flowed into Shiba Inu. You don't have another $70 billion coming into the market with all these institutions saying, oh shit, we should really get on this, right? It's just the same people shifting their money around. And it's who can predict it first, who can shuffle it back and forth and hold that bag, because they're not going to partner up with anyone or do anything of relevance in the current moment. Would Dogecoin one day be developed on? Possibly. And I'll talk about that in a bit with Elon. But ultimately, Shiba Inu, if anyone bought into that at the top, you lost a significant portion of your money. And if we look at how swiftly that dropped, literally the day after I made my video, you're down 50%, just gone. So part of why that happened is everyone was trying to promote this coin and push these shit memes and everything else, trying to get rich. And it's only the people that create the coin and that are in first that are catching any of those pumps. It had a market cap at that time of $12 billion already. You're late. That's it. It's over. It's not going to run up to the price of Ethereum. No one is going to put their money in. You have entire governments and institutions looking at these major cryptocurrencies. That is why those largest ones are up towards $1 trillion market cap or $500 billion market cap that Ethereum just hit. Shiba Inu is not going to get that. I don't care how much hype there is. I don't care if it's Wall Street bets, every fucking TikToker on the planet. It's not going to happen. So they sent about 50% of all available tokens, which is 642 trillion Shiba Inu, which is essentially fucking worthless. And they sent half of all tokens to the wallet. It was a public wallet of Vitalik Buterin. And they were like, hey, he created Ethereum. We're going to send him half of this. Not only is it a good promotional thing, but, he'll have it and that will preserve, our net worth and whatever. So Vitalik, who's so pissed off because all of the Ethereum fees are running through the fucking ceiling with everyone trading these shit dog coin memes on the Ethereum network, he took that and immediately sold it and dumped $1 billion of it and donated to the India COVID Relief Fund. So Ethereum co-founder Vitalik Buterin donated $1 billion of Shiba Inu coin, a Doge spinoff, to a COVID-19 relief fund in India. The 27-year-old Russian-Canadian programmer transferred more than 50 trillion Shiba Inu coins on Wednesday to the India COVID Crypto Relief Fund, according to his public wallet. He also transferred about 500 Ether, or 1.9 million, of his own personal funds to that fund as well. Now, I'm happy that not only this money went to a good place and didn't just sit there, but also I hope it really sent a shock to the system, because across all meme coins, there were hundreds of them, they all got wiped. That was like the worst thing that could have happened. And a lot of the new investors, unfortunately, were hyping these up all through TikTok or saying, oh, Safe Moon's going to the fucking world. No, it's not. And they already have their holdings and they're just making profit off of you. And it's very close to a multi-level marketing scheme, because there is no real use case for it. It is just get people to pile in money and then we eventually dump it. So just keep an eye out. But I mention that because I care about the people coming into this space. And if anyone reaches out to you and says, hey, here's this coin, it was just released and it's going to do the same thing as any of these other ones, it's not. It's not. $2.5 trillion has already flowed into this space. If you come across something that you think is going to 1,000x in the next day, it is either a scam, they are going to hack you, it is a rug pull, or you just don't understand crypto. So just things to keep in mind. Now, the real project I want to talk about, and I've been pushing this for a long time on the channel for people to educate themselves on it. I make it no secret that Cardano is my second largest holding, and I'm a massive fan of their network and what they stand to do. Now, Charles Hoskinson, that created Cardano, was also one of the people that partially worked on the creation of Ethereum. And when he left Ethereum, when they were having some issues, and he also foresaw scaling and fee issues that Ethereum's currently facing, he went and created Cardano. And it was actually a part of the last bull run cycle and ran up to about $1.31 back in 2017 into 18. Now, at that point, they barely had any of their network staked. There was nothing built on them. They had no partnerships. It was really just a lot of hype. And since that point, everyone in crypto really, if they're not a fan of Cardano or they had no hope for the project, they view it as pure vaporware, useless garbage that cannot do anything. They view it the same way as Doge, but it's not. I stake Cardano. I'm a part of the network, and I receive rewards for doing so, and that helps create the blocks that are driving all the transactions through it. But Cardano is 100% staked, and all that means is the network is 100% decentralized, and all the blocks are created by community participants and members. It's not like Ethereum where they have the miners that are driving these fees up and pushing shit through. Cardano is fully decentralized, and the fees are fractions of a penny on a dollar compared to Ethereum. I had a couple fees last week that were up $200, $250. Some people were paying $300, $400 for a single transaction or money movement on the Ethereum network. Now, even though they have that EIP 1559 update coming with the London hard fork in July, that still isn't going to ultimately fix the scaling issues. It may help with the fees a bit, and it could make Ethereum basically deflationary by burning some of the tokens in each transaction, but it's not going to help speed that through. Now with Cardano, their network's already ready to go. And if you've watched my previous videos, they got some big shit going on right now. They partnered with the Department or Ministry of Education in Ethiopia to roll out a 5 million student ID validation system to 3,500 schools with 750,000 teachers involved as well. And people are like, oh, well, that isn't DeFi, it's not dApps, it's not like Ethereum. Well, guess what? They have that coming too with their Alonzo hard fork. They are going to enable smart contracts and DeFi operations and NFTs and all those things. If you can just scream for as long as you want, oh, like they haven't, won the race yet. Well, they're one step away from crossing that finish line of having DeFi. So, convince yourself as much as you want that it's not going to happen, but they're very methodical and scientific about how they go about it. And the whole reason why they haven't had this stuff over the last 4 years is unlike Ethereum, where the cart was put before the horse, they took the time to set up the network. So I started buying this incredibly early. And so far, if we just look at the year that they're having so far, even right back at the start of this year, they were right around 30 cents, 25 cents. Actually, around 17 cents. And I was buying before there, and I've really loaded up around that point because it was apparent that everyone, okay, the momentum is going. And yesterday, even on the Coinbase application, they went all the way up to $2.10 was the height that it peaked because people were buying it up through that. It was trending in the United States on Twitter. It was a really big deal. But what I want people to understand, it's not just because it's cheap and it's not just because it's a big crypto, but they have a lot of things coming down the pipe. They're also partnered with Tanzania for a mobile network. They're also partnered or going to be with a memorandum of understanding with the country of Georgia. They have big things going on in the U.S., even in the state of Wyoming that wants to utilize them. And all those transactions, everything that you do, all the DeFi and the NFTs will use ADA, or that's their ticker, but Cardano as their native token in order to make these things happen. Now, for Cardano, they were talking about on Forbes, Cardano surges during $300 billion crypto crash as Elon Musk eyes sustainable Bitcoin alternatives. Now, I'm going to talk about Elon here in a second, but let me tell you something. This had nothing to fucking do with Elon. They were already consolidating for about 3 months around that mid $1 range after they were announced on Coinbase, and they had their last update after Shelley, which was the Gogan update. As they got closer to these stages, they go in these cycles and they pump. This had nothing to do with Elon. It could have helped temporarily, but it was heading that way regardless. So I want to clarify that. But for them in this Alonzo hard fork, it's a lot of text, so I'm just going to speak to it for you guys. So the Alonzo hard fork is what will allow, and a hard fork is where you just sort of deviate from the current blockchain and you separate it so that, you know, now on this one, once something goes live, you have either a new functionality or an update to the main blockchain. And it's a big deal for a lot of major crypto networks. So they're rolling out something that is known as a Plutus Core. And that is a smart contract programming language behind Cardano smart contracts. It bases itself off a certain coding language that helps people to create their own smart contracts and decentralized applications. The use of Plutus when developing smart contracts will give the logic of future decentralized applications a greater level of rigor and security. The smart contracts in Cardano are designed from the ground up to be secure and mathematically verifiable. With this greater emphasis on security, the costly hacks and bugs that have created so much uncertainty in other projects can be fully, dutifully avoided. Plutus will be used to write and deploy superior decentralized applications. The designers of these new dApps will have the security in knowing that these applications will do what they are intended to do with a straightforward interface with very little room for unintended errors. So they have this big thing coming up. So I'm not going to go into all the technicals about it because at the end of the day, unless you are a blockchain programmer or you're watching all this and you want to understand the fundamentals behind why certain things are pumping and get ahead of it, it's not as applicable. But just know there's a reason why I've been talking about them a lot, and keep your eye on them. If you don't have a position in them, remember, I'm not a financial advisor. I am not an oracle. I'm not a fucking wizard. But I myself have a very large position in them, and I have a bunch of exciting, outlook for them moving forward, not only in this bull run, but for years and years to come. They have a lot of big stuff going on. And they even post, if you go onto their website, they're very transparent about everything they do, all the research, all the studies. They even have a roadmap of how they're testing all the peer-to-peer transactions, and they're mapping out how they move and sync. So if the technicals are something that you find much more interesting, you can go to just cardano.org and play around with their website. Now, the main thing I want to talk about is the fear, uncertainty, doubt, and or FUD that has been in the market thanks to Elon Musk, and then some coordinated other FUD and bullshit that came out that drove the market down over the course of the last couple days. Now, CoinMarketCap has been sort of bugging out for me, but let me see if I can get this to load. So the current market cap of the entire space is around $2.3 trillion in change. So, okay, there we go. So it's loading. I had to close my other one just because it was given a hard time. So yeah, we went from about 2.5 trillion all the way down to low 2.2. I think we were down to 2.1 trillion. So close to $400 billion worth of value based on what we're about to discuss. And that is Elon Musk tweeted in the wee hours of the afternoon on Wednesday, Tesla and Bitcoin. Tesla suspended vehicle purchases using Bitcoin. We are concerned about rapidly increasing use of fossil fuels for Bitcoin mining and transactions, especially coal, which has the worst emissions of any fuel. Cryptocurrency is a good idea on many levels, and we believe it has a promising future, but this cannot come at a great cost to the environment. Tesla will not be selling any Bitcoin, and we intend to use it for transactions as soon as mining transitions to more sustainable energy are done. We also we're looking at other cryptocurrencies that use less than 1% of Bitcoin's energy in transaction. So a lot of cryptos use less than 1% of Bitcoin's energy because they're not a global fucking network with hundreds of thousands of computers. Remember, the Bitcoin network is so strong and incorruptible and immutable and useful all over the world because of the amount of people on it validating the network. So first and foremost, you're going to have plenty of other cryptos that use less power. And then there are some like Cardano that use less and they still can reach a lot of people. But it's Bitcoin's methods of doing things that has everyone up in arms. So this came out of fucking left field because Elon Musk understands cryptocurrency. He understands Bitcoin, and Tesla would not have purchased $1.5 billion. He would not have purchased it himself. SpaceX would not have purchased it if they didn't do 100% due diligence on this. He speaks to Jack Dorsey, who's the owner of Twitter and Square payment system, and he even responded to one of his tweets back in April where Jack Dorsey's talking about how Bitcoin can be great for renewable energy and it can help push this shift over in that direction. And Elon even responded and said, yeah, that's true. And just to make that point, ARK Investments, who's a major hedge fund that's been doing really well and actually a big supporter of Elon and Tesla over the past 2 years, they even broke down that 76% of Bitcoin miners are using renewable energy. It's their biggest cost when it comes to securing the network and mining Bitcoin is fucking energy. So if they can find renewable ways to do it, it lowers their margins. So everyone is incentivized to find the most renewable way of doing it because the hash rate and the mining is getting more and more difficult and it does take more and more power. So let's make that push to renewable energy. A lot of them use hydropower. I talked about the Ukraine setting up a nuclear one using nuclear residue left over from their reactors. All of those things are taken into account whenever people go in and they're discussing this. So then on top of that, he keeps going. So he starts tweeting about Doge. He says, and this is a day later, after we had the biggest Bitcoin liquidation in the history of the network, along with a bunch of other people losing money and wiping $400 billion out of the market. To be clear, I strongly believe in crypto, but I can't drive a massive increase in fossil fuel use, especially coal. Now, keep in mind, he's also blasting rockets into space and sending off a bunch of emissions. And yes, he's trying to get us to Mars and he's creating electric cars and worried about the environment. But every piece of innovation, everything that we do comes with a cost. And that includes the current centralized system that we have. And I'll break that down in a minute. But then he tweets, and this is where I believe he's starting to get into market manipulation and what he's doing, working with Doge developers to improve the system transaction efficiency, potentially promising. And everyone views this as, oh my God, Doge to the moon, Doge, Doge, Doge. Everyone in normal crypto is like, what the fuck are you doing? What the ever living fuck are you doing? This doesn't make any sense. Not only does it not make any sense, but this just isn't going to happen. And people that have been around in crypto for a while, they know that Doge doesn't have any current developers to work with. And actually, one of the co-creators of Doge, who has all of his stuff on private, and he says he enjoys, if you go and look him up, I enjoy a quiet private life. He unmuted himself for like 5 minutes and said, reminder, Elon Musk is and always will be a self-absorbed grifter. Removing this in 1 minute, that's all I have to say, and I enjoy a quiet life. So it's not even like the people that created Doge or supporting this or like going to meet with him in rooms and talk about stuff. Everyone's saying, oh, Elon sold all of his Bitcoin. He didn't sell shit. I want to make that very clear. They didn't sell any of it. In fact, when you had that dip on Wednesday night, 10,000 more Bitcoin left different exchanges and went to hard wallets. And there have been big purchases since that moment while everything's down and the market's recovering, which we've already bounced back to $2.35 trillion. So we've recovered much of that dip. But all the big players behind the scenes are buying. And you got to think, And this is more of a tinfoil hat moment, but he is one of those people that he finds solutions in things, and he makes solar panels. So if he wants to maybe spread the hash rate out, because we had that hash rate problem when China took that big hit 2 weeks ago, maybe set up a bunch of mining operations in the United States where we can mine it using solar power. Or maybe it's Tesla and their board of directors pushing down on him and saying, hey, we've lost value since the day you started talking about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. You got to make a statement because we're down from $850 to $600, which that didn't work because yesterday they dropped from 600 all the way down to like 570, and they were floating around that angle. So it could have been a plethora of different things. Now, I can't speculate or say for sure what it is, but what I can tell you is ultimately this doesn't change anything in my eyes. In fact, I actually went back and I purchased a series of different cryptos during that dip. Just like Polygon and Matic, which is one of the main layer 2s for Ethereum, they dipped all the way down to like the high 90s, bought a bunch of that. It's already up to $1.46. That's 50% right there like that. And there were a series of other ones. I'm up 30, 40% in the matter of a day. People wait all year or multiple years to get. How many people you think hold gold that would be excited in 5 years if they got 40% back on their investment? Right now, that just popped in a minute, and I can take those profits if I want, or I can reinvest it. It's paying attention to the market and understand that when everything looks overheated and when all the metrics are telling us we're at the top, that's when you sell greed. You never sell fear. And anyone that was around in 2017 or 18 that followed this very closely, they understand that these cycles of bad news will continue to come out and mess with everything. Now, I also wanted to break down a little bit more information, and you had stories on CNBC why everyone from Elon Musk to Janet Yellen is worried about Bitcoin's energy use. It's because they aren't. It's because the entire monetary system is collapsing around us, and it's seemingly like everyone in the United States just learned that inflation is a real thing. Not just in gas prices, but in all commodities. And no one can go back to work because no one can be paid a livable wage. But since the currency that they're being paid is more and more useless by the day, we're going to have further and further issues. But you can't pull the stimulus that's paying them to stay home or else everything collapses. Could be that. I don't think it's the energy because this very country allowed our Congress people and everyone in the government, doesn't matter who the fuck is president, to pull out of the Paris Climate Accord, which was the most important climate-oriented piece of legislation globally that I know of. We pulled out of that and no one gave a flying fuck. We just said, oh, okay, business as usual. But now everyone is so concerned about Bitcoin's energy use, even though most of it's renewable, because it threatens the status quo, and they cannot control you if they do not control the resources that you need to survive or to thrive. So those are my thoughts, and I did want to give one last little breakdown of the way I look at it. So back in April, someone was breaking down the average energy consumption per transaction compared to Visa of Bitcoin. Now, I try and look at every single angle, and I place myself on the sides of people I don't agree with so I can try and see their counterpoints. And if we look at one Bitcoin transaction, it uses considerably more energy, supposedly, than 100,000 Visa transactions. But there's a couple reasons for that. And I actually pulled up an article. They were interviewing a specialist when it comes to Bitcoin and their energy use, and his name is Nick Carter. But he breaks it down. Bitcoin and Visa and apples to koalas comparison. So one Bitcoin transaction would generate equivalent of 706,000 swipes of a Visa credit card, according to some other person that he's trying to respond to here. But that energy exchange rate, says Nick Carter, methodology relies on information that's completely mistaken. Bitcoin transactions are not equivalent to Visa transactions. They are different in both form and substance. First of all, Bitcoin and Visa are fundamentally different systems. Bitcoin is a complete, self-contained monetary settlement system. Visa transactions are non-final credit transactions that rely on external underlying settlement rails. Visa relies on ACH, Fedwire, SWIFT, and the global correspondent banking system, the Federal Reserve, and of course the military and diplomatic strengths of the U.S. to ensure that all the above are working smoothly. Any energy comparison must take into above all the account, including the externalities of the extraction of oil, which implicitly backs the dollar. All of those who make this comparison inevitably fail to mention the dollar's ubiquity is partly due to a covert arrangement whereby the U.S. provides military support to countries like Saudi Arabia that agree to sell oil exclusively for dollars. It's worth noting that the grossly oversized U.S. military, whose presence worldwide is necessary to backstop the international dollar system, is the largest single consumer of oil worldwide. Bitcoin transactions, by contrast, just rely on Bitcoin. Bitcoin proposes a new monetary unit, also named Bitcoin, that mediates its circulation through the Bitcoin protocol, which is administered by nodes and miners. Bitcoin's energy footprint is highly transparent due to the accessible and highly integrated nature of the system. This provides fertile ammunition for critics who can easily estimate the externalities of Bitcoin while insisting no equivalent ones exist for the dollar system. But the two systems are different. And it goes on and on and on, but I'm telling you that there's more to consider than just the headlines. And while we're talking about headlines, at the same time, because the large players behind the scenes that were buying that dip in those 10,000 Bitcoin that left the exchanges and then some, also put out this story. So Bloomberg Crypto, which is affiliated with Bloomberg, says, breaking, Binance, the world's largest crypto exchange, is under investigation by the Justice Department and IRS. And we get another dip and everyone's panicking. And I see all the people that dislike Bitcoin or just technically have billions of dollars in the traditional system from fucking everyone over and funneling it up to themselves in K-shaped recovery after K-shaped recovery, jumped on this and they were like, oh, there's another thing. And Elon's selling it all, which he's not. This is it. Bull runs over. Bitcoin's dead. So we can add that to that obituary page I was talking about. Bitcoin's been dead 400 fucking times. But if you actually opened it, I know that it's a lot to ask for the current society to read or to click. But when they're talking about faces probed by U.S. money laundering and tax sleuths. So the federal agencies haven't accused Binance of wrongdoing at all. They were going in to look for how people were using the cryptocurrency because everything on these networks, even if it is just wallet to wallet, it is public transactions. So he came out, CZ, who was the founder of Binance and created the BNB coin. The news title was bad. The article itself isn't so bad, actually, but who reads? It's describing how Binance collaborated with law enforcement agencies to fight bad players, but somehow made it look like a bad thing. Anyways, back to work. So I could say this 500 times, and people are just going to have whatever narrative they want. I am not a positive or negative person. I'm a realist. If I had a reason in looking through everything that I thought that Bitcoin wasn't the best place to be for other people or for me to put my money, I wouldn't do it. I am here because I think both financially and ideologically, cryptocurrency is a good thing for the world and for people. The only people it doesn't benefit are the people that are already fucking benefited. That would have to just adjust so that other people could participate in a system that they've locked them out of. Aside from that, you're going to see more FUD come out. Coming up on the 19th, there is an update on the audit of Tether, which is the largest stablecoin currently in circulation. I believe they're fifth in market cap, and they have, give or take, around like a $58, $59 billion cap. And people are saying, oh, well, we thought that Tether was backed by nothing, right? And people are just using it to inflate the price of Bitcoin. I'm like, well, that sounds very strikingly similar to a US dollar backed by nothing that we can print trillions of dollars of and then completely destroy a global economy that is pegged to it, even though we're no longer backed by gold. But that's besides the point. The real point is Tether already released some of their breakdowns and how exactly they look. And I'll cover that if I think it's prevalent when the time comes. But to be honest, that was the same FUD and the same bullshit and the same story that came out back in 2017. And the reason why it came out is the exchanges they were working with, Bitfinex, and there was one other one. They were doing some shady shit, and people were trying to settle this up. And I think it was like $800 million or something like that at the time was unbacked. And what are you going to do at that time? Go to the banks that say crypto's all a fraud and you guys can all go broke, and by the way, your credit's bad, so good luck starving, and ask them for a loan so that they can back a monetary system that's going to replace them in just a few years? They're not going to fucking do that. You have to be able to take a couple risks and go out, and there were some bad players and there were some bad actors and there were some things that went sideways. That does not mean cryptocurrency is bad. That doesn't mean that it's used on the black market 100% to launder people's stolen kidneys That doesn't mean that we're burning the planet down by Bitcoin mining when we have had zero regard for anyone's environmental safety pretty much in the history of all industry. All of that shit is just fucking noise, because when you look at it and look at the market, I even look at my portfolio, I'm up today. I'm at an all-time high in Bitcoin. My entire Bitcoin portfolio is down significantly from our highs of around 64K. And that's because I understand as they stole that down, I can see in the metrics that they're buying. I can see the Bitcoin, Ethereum leaving the exchanges. I understand what they're doing. They are, just driving it down, buying over the counter, behind the scenes. They'll tell you whatever you want to, hear so that you can panic and sell. And every fucking time you do, you're going to look back and the price will be higher. So you buy back less and they have more. And even though they're still playing catch up and they don't have near the majority, all they need is enough. And then they'll divvy that out just like they currently do in the normal banks. And when you go back, because the dollar can't buy you shit, and they institute their Bitcoin program when you can get a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a percent of what you could have gotten, then you are still in that same system. And you're going to have to work your way out as cryptocurrency eventually works its way into every fabric of every industry over the next 10 to 15 years. That's just the reality of it. But hopefully this video, not only in showing, when I put out those warnings about Shib, I'm not a fucking hater. I don't care. Do you think, I made money on Shib, but I bought it months and months before anyone even gave a shit. Same with Doge, because nobody cares until they see on paper how much they could have made. No one's going to care about this until they see inflation completely fucking wreck everything. And the people that are supposed to make decisions don't have any solutions, because the only thing that we're supposed to do when we face a problem is print more money. But for the first time in human history, we don't have to do that. We have an exit ramp from a fraudulent system, and we don't have to completely burn everything to the ground with no exit strategy. There is an exit strategy, and everyone is taking it, and everyone is considering it. So that solution is no longer viable. So you can, put whatever eggs in whatever basket you would like, but I'm comfortable with my understanding of where everything's at. I feel very confident not only in the crypto community, but the people that are backing it, and now everyone else getting into the infrastructure of it, that I can't help but be excited every single day to be a part of this. But as always, if you could share this video to anyone that may need to see it or find it informative. I'm going to be doing a breakdown of some other cryptos and things that I'm looking at moving into June, which is still, I believe, going to be the back half of altcoin season before we move into July with Ethereum's EIP 1559 and Bitcoin's next leg up fully to new all-time highs. But aside from that, I am honored every single time you guys come back and watch the channel and spend some time with me, and I will catch you guys next time.